This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and I'm on the wrong tab. Here we go. This is what I really look like. So today I've got a couple of tabs I want to kind of touch on, okay, and then I mostly want to talk about a potential top for gold because, as is often the way, just as we start to perhaps entertain higher prices, the market starts to show weakness, right? Just as every man and his dog finally reaches consensus that we might be going way higher in gold, just as we see the likes of David Hunter moving his targets up and that kind of thing, all of a sudden it looks like we got the first candidate for a reversal. So I just want to talk about that. I want to point at a few things pertaining to that, what it implies for Bitcoin potentially, and then of course at the end we'll look at some charts and TA and live positions. And finally tomorrow we will be back with the weekend's deep dive. Hopefully there'll be some new data for me to go through and that'd be good to have a catch up there. Before we get into the whole gold and Bitcoin stuff, I do want to kind of take a few detours. These will probably seem a little bit random, but some of these are public service announcements, some of them are not, but let's dig into this right away. Okay, I saw this, right? We're literally right here. Apparently, we are extremely early in this kind of bull market, this secular bull phase. This to me seems absolutely ludicrous, okay? Now, by all means, believe this if you want, but I think it's very easy to disprove this by simply saying that if we use my angles of attack, right, we are so clearly not in this kind of first angle, right? We're so clearly not here, right? We are much more clearly, in my humble opinion, somewhere in this neighborhood. Okay, and if you don't believe me, you can very easily pull up a chart. Any chart will do, frankly, and start to draw a few trend lines on here, right? We're so clearly in big third and final blow off top angles, right? That to me, it's just obvious that we're not that early in the cycle, okay? We can do the exact same thing with gold, right? We can do the exact same thing with Bitcoin, frankly, as well, okay? To me, it's just we are clearly not this early. But remember, it speaks to being at that part of the cycle, right? When we get very late stage cycle, when we get towards tops, everyone starts thinking that this bull market's got legs and it's going to go on for a long time and starts moving the goalposts and moving the targets higher and all that kind of thing. So I think this is kind of business as usual. By all means, let me know what you think, right? Do you actually think we're here or do you think we're somewhere up here? Because I think it's the latter, but we each get to have our own opinion, right? I also wanted to point at this for a quick moment because yesterday when I was talking about this big parabolic blow off top moment, when I was talking about how vertical the stock market is, and I was saying things like once this thing concludes and, you know, whether or not David Hunter's massive targets are hit or whether we fall short or whether we top here, I was concluding that I would probably never see stock market price action like this again in my entire career. And a lot of people, I think, misunderstood what I meant by that. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, you obviously haven't been trading that long. Like, what about 2008? What about the dot-com bubble? This is just another bubble. But I actually make the case, this is not just another bubble. Okay, this is a bubble with a difference because there will certainly be more parabolic blow-off tops for me to trade in my career, right? This is not the only bubble I'm going to experience or the last bubble I'm going to experience. That's not what I meant. But what I meant is this time around is kind of different for a number of reasons, right? Once this bubble finally concludes, we are looking at a new system being launched. We're looking at a great reset. We're looking at digital IDs and social credit scores and central bank digital currencies. This time around, we haven't got a changing world order in the same sense that we normally do, right? Normally, the world reserve currency collapses, a rising power that challenges the current world reserve currency ends up taking its place. We get a new world reserve currency and a change of power dynamic. This time around, we're not going to have that. Right? This is a bubble with a difference. This time around, we're probably going to see either some kind of one world currency or we're going to see the US maintain the dollar as the world reserve or some kind of digital dollar as the world reserve, or maybe there'll be some kind of special draw right basket. Who knows, right? But for a start, that is different to the 2008 bubble or the dot-com bubble or any bubble before that. And so we will, of course, get more bubbles because bubbles are basically driven by humans being silly, right? Their emotions get the better of them and that's what drives bubbles. And we can always count on humans to be emotional and silly from time to time. So it wasn't necessarily that I'm suggesting that I'll never see another parabolic blow off top. It's just that this time around, there's a few things that are quite different, okay? As I said, there's going to be a whole digital component to this new thing, the tokenization of everything. We may even see everything from cars and houses put on blockchains, right? Now, I think that's going to take time, don't get me wrong. But again, you know, they are actually moving in that direction. And at the same time, you know, something that even if you traded through the dot-com bubble and 2008 and the ones before that, 87 and 82, you know what none of those things had? None of those things had, right, a major currency collapse as part of them. And this time around, we might actually see that. Now, it's not really a call or a prediction. This is not my area of expertise, to be honest. I like to stay in my own lane, right? There's things I know better than anyone, and there's a lot I don't know. And currency collapses and the yen carry trade and that kind of thing, you know, I've had Sonny on the channel. He's clearly far more versed in that kind of stuff than I am. That's why I have him on to present the case. If anyone hasn't seen the collabs with Sonny, he talks about the Mexican peso carry trade and the yen carry trade in great detail, so you can go and check those out. But again, this time around, we might actually have the Bank of Japan painted itself into a corner, right? If the yen blows, the Bank of Japan's going to have to raise rates or risk currency collapse. There's no easy options left. Like I said, they're painted into a corner, right? Raising interest rates is going to crash their bond market and US stocks. Again, Japanese yen carry trade unwind 2.0. The currency collapse will lead to hyperinflation and chaos, and the Fed can come to the rescue, but bailing out Japan is not as easy as bailing out Argentina. So will the Japanese yen be the first world currency to collapse in modern times? You know, I'm not saying it will. I don't know. This is not my area of expertise, as I said, but this is a non-zero probability. I actually think the risk here is a lot higher than most people realize. And again, if this is going to truly collapse, first of all, we're in that timing window, right? The average fiat currency has 50 to 100 years lifespan, and all of these currencies are that old now, okay? So it's entirely feasible that some of these could start to blow up in our lifetime, and that makes it very different to any of the prior recessions or bubble bursts that we have seen. So super wild times. I saw this as well, and I wanted to kind of present this as a shower thought this morning. Here is the number of Bitcoin that these countries hold, at least publicly. What about North Korea? I'm sure they've probably got more than all of these combined. Now, let me know if you think I'm way off there, but also Russia's not listed here, right? Russia and North Korea, aren't they some of the biggest Bitcoin holders in the world, right? I think North Korea is like they have the most successful hack rate, right, for stealing Bitcoins or ransomware attacks and then demanding Bitcoin. I don't know. It seems weird. I mean, I guess we could never get the actual numbers because they won't release them. But what do you think? Am I way off here? I'd actually be really curious to know. And then just before we get into the whole gold and Bitcoin stuff, as a public service announcement, I just wanted to point to this in case you're brand new to this channel and cycles, because people are still measuring these cycles every which way but the way you should measure them, and they're saying, look, enough days have elapsed since the 2024 halving that if you believe in 4-year cycles, this is the end of the bull market. And as I said, just as a public service announcement, okay, we have seen 37-month bull runs, we have seen 35 from low to high, we've seen 35, we've seen 35 so far, but it could easily go on for a couple more months and still be a 4-year cycle because we measure the cycles low to low. So if you don't know, now you know, and feel free to go and watch the tutorial playlist on this channel. As for gold, it's been a great run. We're talking about Jim Cramer coming out and saying that for decades he's been extremely bullish on gold, and now it's finally catching up. So is this a top signal? I don't know. I think this man says so many things in every single direction that some of them are right and some of them are wrong, and a lot of people tend to use him solely as a contrarian indicator or a counter trading indicator. But frankly, he does get some stuff right, because if he only got things wrong, then obviously everyone would catch on to that. I think his job is to just say a million different things, and some of them are right and some of them aren't, yeah? But of course, the implications here are pretty strong for bullish Bitcoin action, okay? If gold at the bottom here really has topped and is going to start to range and go sideways for a bit, okay, then historically we saw Bitcoin move higher. It was the same here. Gold gets a run up, okay, it tops and then Bitcoin goes. And right now, we may well be working on an intermediate top sometime this month for gold. And if so, number one, that would make sense because the price action in gold has been extremely vertical and parabolic, right? You know, as I showed earlier, we've got these big increasing angles of steepness. We still continue to climb. We might for a little while longer, but even this crazy fractal of mine says that we're going to top out no later than the end of this month, okay? And that's assuming we just start to gap up and cover a lot of ground very quickly, which we don't have to do, remember. We could very easily just break down from this trend line here, and that'll be enough for me to say, okay, I've made enough gains for this current portion of the bull cycle since the 8-year cycle low. I'm going to exit my position, sit on the side, and wait for a higher quality setup to present itself. But the point remains, okay, whether we're going to top right here, right now, and roll over, and Cramer will once again have picked the top by bull posting, or whether we're going to continue to climb higher for the rest of this month, it does seem like we're getting kind of close to a top in gold. And if that's the case, then historically speaking, we have seen Bitcoin absolutely tear out of the tops for gold. So that's one thing I think is pretty interesting. Looking at the miners and the mining ETFs and that kind of thing, they did have some big red candles yesterday, and they are starting to enter the left translation area of the weekly cycle topping window, which is denoted by this ellipse here. But so far, they're still bouncing off of support, right? And the same is true of GDXJ, the miners. Okay, we're still not violating trend lines yet. SILJ had a big red candle, but again, looks like it's got a lot of strength here, doesn't it? Looks like it's still pushing up into its weekly cycle top window. And notice how silver is not pulling back at all, okay? We are now, what's this fractal here? I'm distracted myself. Oh, yes, this is the David Hunter blow off top to $100 fractal. We'll get rid of this, okay? We don't need that distracting us for now. But $51, right? So silver doesn't care. Silver's not stopping. Happy days for now, at least. And if gold can hold support, then who are we to judge it, right? We're just going to continue to be long and strong for a while longer. Again, sometime this month would make total sense. And it would make total sense because then we'd be quite left translated in this weekly cycle, okay? And obviously, if we keep holding this angle, we're going to cover a lot of ground very quickly. So sometime soon, we should get that top in gold, which should, of course, translate to something like this for gold, okay? And hopefully something like this for Bitcoin. So it's going to be a case of checking in on these charts every single day. We'll mostly do this in the members section because I appreciate most people on the main channel aren't holding these and stuff. But we got to check these things every day and wait for a bit of rotation to occur. I'm also queuing some shorts in the level 3 members section because I think some of these are going to violate spectacularly to the downside. And then the big question becomes, do we get a period of overperformance for Bitcoin? I got a couple of interesting things to point at here, okay? Because a lot of people are pointing at this. This is Bitcoin priced in gold and saying, well, Bitcoin's not really doing much, right? It hasn't been able to outperform base layer money since the 2021 original peak. But remember, if gold is about to top here and trade down, let's say it does something akin to this, okay? Even if it just goes sideways, let's say net sideways without even moving down, for Bitcoin to make a breakout here and push to, I don't know, somewhere up here in this neighborhood, we're going to need approximately a doubling in the price of Bitcoin. And that puts us at about 250K per Bitcoin. It puts us in a much, much, much higher territory. If we're going to do a measured move here, something akin to this is pretty crude, admittedly, but we'd probably be somewhere up in the 60 to 65 ounces, right? The Camel Crew know that number very well. And again, that would speak to somewhere in the 220 to 250 neighborhood, assuming gold can just kind of range and go sideways like this. Needless to say, if it's going to drop massively and very, very sharply, Bitcoin doesn't have to go that high to satisfy those kind of measured move targets from back here. A lot of people are getting frustrated in this kind of neighborhood and focused in the wrong places. But I think instead of focusing on can we hop into gold right at the top of this parabola and see if we can extract a few more pips, and instead of giving up on Bitcoin and going hunting after altcoins and that kind of thing, I think people should be potentially looking to get out of gold here and expect a much, much, much more violent rally from Bitcoin than most people are anticipating. And at the same time, that would make loads of sense because I'm tired, boss, right? Lots of people are tired here. Lots of people have been worn out. Lots of people, I think, thought they would do a lot better this cycle because they didn't manage their expectations. But look where we are, okay? We are in October. And in all prior cycles, October saw us moon to a top at fresh all-time highs. So is this time different, or have we already begun the ascent, okay? Are we well on our way to 150 plus K over the next couple of months? And are, unfortunately, many people going to kind of quit and throw in the towel here right before the majority of the move is unleashed? Again, if it did it, it would just be a Livermore accumulation cylinder, right? We've already done the hard part. It's now time for the moon mission. Ignore these numbers, okay? Never say never, but I don't think so. I will show you one thing as well on this all-time price history index, okay? If we go all the way back, we get a top in August, we get a bearish September, we get a bottom in October, and then we ignite a big bull run into an ultimate high. We go to the next phase of this cycle, okay? We get, once again, a top in August, a bearish September, and then by the time we get to October, we moon into a top. If we go to the top of the next cycle, okay, we get a top in August, a bearish September, and then by the time we get to October, we break out and moon into a top. If we go all the way here, we get a top in August, we get a bearish September, and then by the time we get to October, we break out and moon into a top. And then at the hard right edge, what have we got here? We have got a top in August right here. We had a bearish September, and we have now reached October, where we are starting to break out at the top. So the seasonality is ripe, okay? It's ripe to see Bitcoin stage a big push to the upside here. It's also important to note that for, if I go to the monthly candles here, for this October into December, this thing staged an enormous rally, but okay, fine, that was the first cycle. What about here? We stage a 1000% rally. What about here? We stage a 400% rally. What about here? We stage a 60% rally. So it would be kind of weird if we didn't at least do 40% here. And 40% from here puts us at about 169, 170k, 169 for the memes, right? It seems pretty reasonable, to me at least, that there is a couple of big green candles loading. And when we're zoomed out and we're looking at these kind of monthly candles, okay, if we just take 2 monthly candles, like these two right here, okay, and then we just grab that and stick it at the hard right edge, this gets us easily and comfortably above 200k with the candles we saw out of the last weekly cycle for Bitcoin. So I don't think we should be discounting this. I think we should stay optimistic until the charts prove us otherwise. There's still a lot in our favor, in my humble opinion, and really, I think what we should be actually focusing on here is trying to nail a top in gold over the next couple of weeks. Let's say the next 2 to 3 weeks. If we can get a major top in gold, then that will set us up for about 8 weeks of upside in Bitcoin into that Christmas period, just as everyone's cheering on a Q1 or a Q2 top, or indeed no more 4-year cycle, or indeed that we're extremely early in a bull market, as if this is not a 43-year secular bull market starting from around 82. Quick checkup on the positions. Stocks still mooning, so we will continue to let them. Gold still holding support, so we'll continue to push the trade. Silver still doing silver things, finally clear of 50. Now the real question is, how high can she go? All of those miners in the level 3 members section are still holding on. There's 1 or 2 that are breaking down. If you're a level 3 member, we'll keep an eye on that today, and we'll do our standard fan and out approach to keep us on trend a little while longer. And of course, if we have to take some profit from 1 or 2 of those positions, then we'll just do that. Happy days. And Bitcoin, you know, we've spent enough time bull flagging here, okay? Really would like to see this thing push by about Monday or Tuesday at the absolute latest, so we'll see about that. Plenty of gains in the crypto-related equities, right? Even Mara's starting to pop off now, and Riot 22 handle, you know, a bunch of these are doing really well. I saw some people in the comments saying things like, where's MicroStrategy? Well, MicroStrategy is covered in the level 3 members section. We no longer have a position here. We're just looking for a bump, just so you know, okay? We're looking for a bump and a breakdown, and then we're going to short the thing. So I see a bunch of people commenting, oh, if there's blow off top, then $1,000 MicroStrategy. I don't know. We'll see, right? We will see. But I'm going to keep doing me. And at the moment, this looks exactly like breakdown, hard retest, resumption to the downside. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get a bump. And the reason I say a bump is, number one, it gives us a nice short setup. But number two, that bump buys us enough time, doesn't it, for Bitcoin to do its thing. Whilst I'm here, just because I remembered, I know a bunch of you like me to cover ETH. I don't know about that, bro. That does not fill me with confidence, but we'll see. I guess we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. XRP also not looking great either. And we'll do Sol. That's the only other one I can remember. Sol looking okay, right? If it can move and can move higher, we'll see. What about Bitcoin dominance whilst we're here? I keep forgetting to do all this stuff. Oh, wow. Okay. I was always a champion that this would not make it back down to the lows this time, but we'll find out about that, I guess. And Total 2 still looks a little bit vulnerable, doesn't it? But I don't know. We'll see about this. This can obviously moon to the upside on very thin breadth, so that doesn't really change much either. So anyway, I hope that was somewhat helpful. I hope that was somewhat useful. I'm your boy Camel. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you'll come back tomorrow for the deep dive. And of course, there'll be a level 3 members video for you guys as well tomorrow. So until then, have a fantastic weekend. Trade safe. Keep an eye on gold. I'm your boy. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel